And Josephine, thank you.
Yeah, before I get you, what after I have for. Oh, 15 is mine. She said it on the queue. Just gonna make room for Josephine.
I don't know. That's a good thing.
Everybody gets that one.
I figured how to do this.
All right, guys, you're alive and ready to go.
All right, everyone, remember, we are now recording post studio. Also with Jesse being remote, Christine, Jeffrey, you guys, he needs to be able to hear all of us, hear us, because he's remote and we're gonna need him, so if we can keep the side chatter to a minimum, I appreciate it. With that, good evening and welcome to everyone for our May Executive Committee meeting. My name is Jessica Chait and I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. As you all know, we continue to adopt a hybrid policy and are joined by members and community members, members of the public online. Folks should only, will need to get permission to join remotely. Extraordinary circumstances include disability, illness, unplanned or emergency caregiving responsibilities, or other significant or unexpected factors, which precludes a physical member's attendance. We do have board members who are joining via Zoom to leave their cameras on. As a reminder, this is being recorded and will be found on YouTube, as I think Jeffrey would say, forever. Tonight we have a relatively brief agenda. I want to welcome folks from the public and I believe our newest board member. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Kevin Collins. Pleasure to see everybody. Look forward to working together. Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit during the show report about our new committee, our new members to the board. For the first agenda tonight, we have a letter to Chelsea NYCHA Development Team regarding interim repairs. What is featured in the Dropbox right now is a bit of a draft. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we work this through. Folks know that a primary concern is, you know, as we talk about the NYCHA redevelopment plan, is about a long-term approach to appropriate suitable housing for our neighbors and for many of us. And at the crux of that is ensuring that people have quality conditions to live in right now, and we know that they don't. Exactly. And so interim repairs, as sometimes have been referred to, are really critical, and we are very concerned that there has not been sufficient or really any progress made in that direction. Additionally, we are concerned by the report that NYCHA is going to manage that process when we have seen that, you know, how we are in this situation, which is that NYCHA has been unable to manage those repairs. So the proposed letter that you have in your Dropbox, again, a work in progress, and I think Carrie has already done some additional work just in the last few hours to enhance this letter. But to come out of exec reflecting the work that's happening in both in the conversations and the reports from community at CLU, as well as Housing, Health and Human Services, is to write a letter, as you see here, requesting that these repairs not only be expedited, but that the responsibility not fall to NYCHA given their past performance. And so we'd like, you know, if any of the respective co-chairs of those two committees would like to say any additional comments.
Like a real crux part of this is we're in a working group was in a meeting with NYCHA and related to a couple weeks ago. We were informed that NYCHA would stay in place doing repairs for 8 years, which is nothing that we've ever talked about. We all dropped our jaws. We couldn't believe it. We had some similar information the week before, and then they came back with flow charts saying here's what it would be. So any rat pack deal, the moment there's a closing, everything, all responsibilities transfer to the developer. So that's what we're asking for. And we're going to get the letter sharpened to make it clear.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the letter. I just want us to be aware, and I'm aware, that in writing the letter, we're assuming that the redevelopment is going forward.
No, any version of redevelopment, any version.
Okay,
We'll clarify, and trust me, I got something Jeffrey did. We're gonna reconcile and make it.
yeah, because,
In any,
Okay.
we'll say in any version thereof.
okay,
Yeah, in reading the letter, it wasn't clear that there was a transfer to Related Essence,
Yeah.
that they are responsible for the repairs. So if we can find that citation or the award or the date at which that happened.
No, it has not happened.
So
It happens as part of the normal RAD pack process.
Yeah.
And we'll refer to that, in all the other developments that have been done like this in NYCHA's portfolio, they close on the whole deal in both the buildings renovated and unrenovated all go at once.
Right,
So
but-
that's part of the, I think part of the problem is
Correct.
that right now it's not written anywhere. And so NYCHA will maintain the responsibility and that is concerning to us.
But for today, who's doing repairs?
NYCHA's doing repairs, so, and related
And
things,
they continue on until what date? That's, I'm sorry, is there?
Well, originally
I'm
December.
sorry,
So I'm trying, I'm
Right.
trying to get clarity on
Limit-
the fact that it sounds to me like when the Red Pack deal is set, then Related Essence would take over repairs. But if
Yeah.
that hasn't happened yet,
The
Yeah.
challenge with that is the way the deal is being, as we understand it, is being sequenced, could result in effectively a slow transfer, or a slow burn is what I was gonna say, of Related taking over, because they're closing each project based on the physical asset.
each building.
Each building, so they may take building one, right, 404
Yes.
now, but they're not gonna get to four
So-
twenty-two for 10 years.
so what we want to say is that the certification of the first award triggers all repairs across the campus.
Let me say, even cleaner, every other RAD pack deal, it's mostly renovation.
Yeah.
And day one after closing, the development team takes possession of everything, is responsible for everything. In this case, because it's currently posited as new construction, they're saying all the existing buildings, NYCHA will retain jurisdiction for repairs and only for the new buildings related. And the bottom line is, that's never been done before. The council member's not in favor, tenant association not in favor.
But that's not clear in a lot of the way it's currently written.
Correct,
So
yeah, it's gotta be
like help clarify
Yes.
that.
Thank you.
So I'm in agreement
Yeah.
that Related Essence should be doing the repair work, but there's probably a contractual point at which it triggers.
They currently have a license and they had presented to housing, they were doing security and extermination first and all other things further. They have not come back to us for anything further. It's been very frustrating.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
actually think we probably will stay away from some of the technical elements, because that's for them to figure out. Really, what we wanna do is hold their feet to the fire and say repairs have to start and they have to be done in ways, we have to see a plan that can be executed, and NYCHA has no credentials to show for that experience, and so related needs to carry.
Right. I also want to just add really quickly that I feel like it's clear to us through all of the conversations that we've had and, comments that we've heard from the residents that they believed that Related would be taking over the repairs. So this is really important for us to get it out there, even if it's imperfect.
We're gonna finish with committee comments and then we can go to the public, but first.
So shouldn't we be asking that part of the deal with Related include the repairs?
Yeah, we're gonna pull a phrase from another letter that got drafted that says, as part of every other RAD pack deal, do it the same and include the repairs. That's all.
Okay.
So it's very specific that it's,
But I mean, don't we want to say you don't get the deal unless you do the repairs?
I think we make the assumption that they have to do it because that's how they've done it throughout, that's how NYCHA's done it throughout their entire portfolio so far. These Chelsea NYCHA should not be treated differently.
I think we should be explicit about that, more explicit.
We can look back at what language we have. I mean, the deal unfortunately has been awarded and. So, there are many other things, including the RFP and.
That's the point I'm trying to make. If it was awarded, they should be doing it.
Yeah.
But when was it awarded that, like make that.
Correct.
Well, we
So-
don't know.
No, it was awarded, right? And then normally what happens is a RAD pack developer gets a license in advance of the closing to do some work, right? What we learned just 2 weeks ago is that they would not be taking over the whole campuses at the same time. So that was the.
I say condition, okay, thanks.
Right, Jeffrey, and then Mike has his hand up, so we'll let him.
Thank you. I just want to say I am totally sympathetic and understand what everybody's asking for right now, but I think this is an incredibly complicated process, as many of us recognize and know, and I think the key factor here is the simplicity of it and this is what we expected to happen yesterday, no matter what the plan is for next year or the year after. Given that many folks already expected stuff to actually start happening to their apartments. So while this letter might be missing some fine detail and some minutia, this is also meant to light a fire under NYCHA related in essence, but also to leverage our elected officials to realize, oh, this is really not good today, so will tomorrow be worse? And so I hope we can sort of keep it simple as it relates to just standing up for what the expectation is, and that repairs should start in short order, and it should not be NYCHA.
I think we can add some nuance and do both, so we can get there easily enough.
Out of curiosity, does anyone know, was it just them doing the repairs? Was that part of any agreement, a written agreement, RFP, anything, or was that just like a promise in the?
No, that's part of our.
It was part of the deal,
Yes,
so when
yes.
the deal, where was it switched, is what it, like, and how are they?
Well, think about how many things were switched to this deal. That's our problem.
Right,
It was
but-
renovation.
It was renovation.
But I think we should refer
Did
to
it-
that.
Yeah,
So
we're
was it
to
the
actual
RFP?
written-
And they refer-
I can go back to there, I can go up to
Yeah.
that, yeah, sure. It's all public.
Because we keep taking apart this RFP little by little.
Well, we keep finding out more information week by week, that's the real problem.
Okay, we're gonna go to Mike. Do I have to do something?
No, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Mike. should
Yeah,
be-
I'm okay. I can speak if you can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, good. I don't need to be seen. Let me just say that I had a long discussion with Jamar this
Yeah.
morning.
Sorry, Mike, if you're speaking in your board member capacity, we
Oh,
have
yeah.
board members, keep your camera on. But
Yeah.
if you can't,
That's me. I brought him over just so he could speak. It's not giving him. back-
okay, sorry,
digital.
go ahead.
I can flip him if you need me to.
It's
No,
okay, go
don't-
ahead.
It's okay. So look, I spoke to him at length this morning because I wanted to make sure that you folks were aware of everything that was going on that I'm not even familiar with at this point. So one of the things that's a problem vis-a-vis our demand is that Related has not been, in essence, they haven't been paid anything for these interim repairs. All right. No, Joe, you're shaking your head. I'm telling you that they have not received money.
If you can see me, I gotta be able to see you, please.
What's that?
Go ahead, Mike.
So he's telling me that they don't get paid for this stuff. All right,
No,
as it is now without an agreement, and that NYCHA has been dragging its feet trying to get this agreement set up. All right, so that's what the holdup is. It is NYCHA dragging its feet because they've got a bunch of things going on at the same time, and he says they can't chew gum and walk at the same time down there. So that's the issue, okay? They want to, at Related, in essence, carry on with this what they call the Meanwhile program, right? Which is, they've already set in with the security and the RAT program and all that business. And from there, they're gonna go into the heating and cooling business, all right? The heat system before the winter kicks in, all right? So that's the next move. And also the doors and the intercoms and all that business. So that's what they're looking at. Other stuff, they will get involved with, piecemeal basis as required, as asked for by NYCHA. So the folks you got to really direct this at are those at NYCHA coming up with an agreement so that these guys can get paid. And that's really it. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Anybody else from the board, or we'll go, I think, does Selena still have her hand up? Yeah. Anybody? Oh, okay, we'll go to the public. We'll do Selena and then.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm from the Elliott building. Now that we know that NYCHA will cover repairs for the next 10 years, we can decline the proposal of any private developer. We also have other supplemental income from NYCHA. Elliott Chelsea has infill land that was used to build a mixed income building. A percentage is supposed to be used into our homes. Jonathan Gouveia said that a one-time payment was made. So where is that payment? And why hasn't it been invested in the Elliott Chelsea houses? Also, Corey Johnson had allotted city council discretion dollars to Fulton Elliott Chelsea for improvements. Very little of that was spent. We still have over $3 million of unspent capital funds. And Eric Botcher can be so gracious to add to that total. Also, the vacant unit readiness program was allotted $226 million to rehabilitate NYCHA's empty apartments in preparation for new tenants. What NYCHA needs to do is fill up the empty apartments with working class families, which is what public housing was made for. The low-income working class. We cannot afford to have empty units. We need the revenues that come from our rent payments to get recycled right back for repairs and upkeep. Also, we have the funds that come in on a regular basis from the city and state. Let's not forget those excessive payments that NYCHA afforded to make in those fraudulent transactions with vendors. Also, our friendly and billionaire neighbors can make small donations. We know that Related supports the maintenance and operations of the High Line. They could make the minimal philanthropic contribution to our NYCHA buildings. Look at all these sources of available funds. NYCHA can maintain our buildings. NYCHA and city officials want to do away with public housing and live up to the politics of the day. City of yes. We've always had a housing crisis since the days of Koch and Giuliani. But now they want to put our livelihood at risk to service greedy companies. It's been established. We don't need them managing our homes. We know that public housing funds are obtainable. The political will may not be there, but it's a must, a requirement. Stop Rat Pack and keep public housing public. I do have a question. If you can add on that letter, who's paying for the security and the pest control on our campus now? Because if it's NYCHA that's paying for security, that's wasted money. They're not accomplishing anything. All they do is submit reports to Essence of the activity that's going on in our campus. Instead, those funds can be used for our repairs, or we can have PSA4 on campus where safety can really be established, enforced. And a response to Mike Noble, no one is claiming that Related is being paid. The claim is that NYCHA is funding interim repairs, and that's what we're trying to find out. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Renee?
So, the script continues to be flipped. I suggest you all figure out something else. Comprehensive modernization is a possibility without going into Rat Pack. NYCHA was always going to be here. They were at least supposed to do some things. My suggestion is that you look at the NYCHA RFP to implement a community-driven preservation and investment strategy for Fulton and Elliott Chelsea. Key updates and third round of questions and answers. NYCHA is excited to share that the capital planning department, CDD, will update and replace all roofs at Fulton houses. Applicants do not need to consider roof repair replacement costs in their proposed scope of work and financial plans. So no one's going to be here. What's going on here is that we are being sacrificed. And someone needs to figure it out. It's not about you deciding what we want for those campuses. We're in trouble, big trouble. They have done everything and everyone has gone along with them and capitulated beautifully. Right now, if this proposed demolition goes through and everyone will feel they've done the best they can while we're dying of all sorts of ailments, asbestos, lung disease, everything. I don't want to be the Smith houses. I don't want to be Jacob Reese. They're having massive issues down there. This is a game. Our lives are at stake. I don't really think you understand that. Our lives, not yours, are at stake. It's me, my family, my mother, all these people here. They're playing games. Terry, I remember one time you said, what more do they want? They want it all. And they have been given it. They want a casino. They want this, they want that. You better make a really hard choice and decision. You telling NYCHA
that they have to do it, you saying you want related, we are an afterthought. You need to understand this. Keep begging them to do whatever, they're going to do whatever. That's what I need to say to you, as you're all staring at me now. Really think about this. Jeffrey, at one time, you said you'd be happy with a 40-story building. Well, you got your 40-story building. Except they're going to kill people when they bring them in there. That's what you need to be happy about. So you need to think, really, really think about what's going on. They've been flipping the switch on everything you've done. From your 2008, 2009 agreement, flipped it. They've done it in Miami, flipped it. Did it in Chicago, flipped it. They are flipping everything. You better figure it out. You'll be fine, we'll be dead. That's what you need to know.
Thank you, Renee. Alexa, did you want to speak?
I always will and will say that I always want, say, section 9 of the NYCHA. They have made repairs for many years. We have new refrigerators, new toilets, new floors, everything. You know, it's not like NYCHA, government grant, HUD doesn't have the money. They do have the money. It's just that, they want a land grab and they want to take, and people want to make money out of it. And they're hurting the low income people, which is not right. We are, American citizens. We have paid our taxes. We have paid our dues. We have good standing, background and all that. And we deserve a home just like you. See, you're not being attacked, we are. And we're gonna be, where I've heard from the meetings is that when they build these new buildings, these new highways, they're only gonna have 24 units on the top of the floor. How are you gonna fit a whole bunch of people that are from NYCHA into a 24-unit building? That means that a lot of people are gonna be homeless, which is unjust. Really, thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 hands up online. We have Lydia Andre and then Jackie Lara. Lydia, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I'm Lydia from the 300 West 20th Street Block Association. I just want to say that I'm really appreciate the women who just spoke and I'm listening. But I also want to say that I've been listening to our elected officials and I hear them say things that are like a done deal that are absolutely going to happen. And then Joe tells us about a meeting when suddenly something that they've told us was going to be one way is another way. And I'm very concerned about the instability of the information. How do you guys know what you think you know about this deal? How does the community know things about this deal? I really feel like an incredible amount of caution and skepticism is in order. I'd like to know where the 200 units that Related promised they'd build, affordable housing units they promised they'd build when Hudson Yards went up. Where are those units? We're still waiting for them. I feel like this is not. Pardon?
Sorry, there was just background. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to say that how do we know what we are getting into, not just for NYCHA residents, for the whole community with the Rad Pack deal when everything is so unstable and everything changes? I really urge caution and I appreciate the work of the Land Use Committee and I expect you guys to look out for the interests of all the residents. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Jackie. Jackie, I muted you, now I'm gonna unmute you.
Yeah,
Hi,
yes, I'm so.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
I don't know, some of you guys seem to care about what's gonna happen to us and some of you don't. And I just, I can't figure out all these changes and it's confusing everybody. But, let's just stick to the working group. I don't know why we can't just stick to to the conclusion of the working group. Why are we trying to demolish buildings, you know? And yeah, I mean, I think that's really heartless what you guys are planning to do to us. If you're saying NYCHA cares about us, you care about us, because we're constantly hearing that you guys don't want us living like this. It's obviously some of you really don't give a shit, excuse my language, how we live, because something should have been done since the working group finished. But no, here we go, still people's apartments are being deplorable, they need repairs. And not only that, but now the control center is not picking up phones. Now I'm getting residents calling me or stopping me and telling me that they've been calling the control center and nobody picks up. Like, they're really making our lives difficult, and I just wish you guys had a little more compassion and really cared about us, and really stop all this nonsense and start repairing these people's homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. We have a few more comments from the public. I just want, for those who joined late, just to reorient us to the item on the agenda right now, is specifically about our support for interim repairs and the importance of prioritizing those. Jackie just referenced the deplorable conditions that some residents have, not all, but some. In fact, many we've heard from, including at our last board meeting. And we really want to bring that to the forefront of this conversation. And so that is the topic specifically on tonight's agenda, though of course we welcome any comments from the public or otherwise on the NYCHA project. With that, we can go to Ronald Taylor.
You hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, hi, we hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you.
Thank you so much. Quick question. Can somebody tell me what's the sense of making repairs when you're going to tear the buildings down? I don't understand the logic in that.
Right.
Can anybody explain the logic?
Yeah,
I can just share that as we understand it right now, well, one, we're not in favor of we've not taken a position to support the tearing down of the buildings, but if that project were to go through, it could be as much as a decade until people see new conditions. And so as a result, we feel very concerned from the people on behalf of the people we've heard from about, as was just referenced, some deplorable conditions, and feel strongly that people have had to suffer through these conditions for, in some cases, as much as a decade, and should not have to wait another decade to have appropriate housing, suitable housing. So that's really what's motivating this letter and this discussion. But we invite you, Ronald, to join, the committee meetings where a lot of this work is being discussed, and both Chelsea Land Use and our Housing, Health and Human Services meetings are the venue where a lot of this conversation and frankly debate is taking place, and we invite you to join those meetings.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. Okay, with that, we're going to turn back to the letter at hand, and again, it does need some work, but I think these can all be seen as friendly amendments to the letter. Christine.
So, for somebody who's not, following day to day, it would be really helpful to explain where we are in that process, because a lot of people say it's done, it's not done. Where is it, and what is our leverage in between? I mean, where do we go from there? Or are we totally delusional about?
Let me try to take this in pieces, right? So Related has been awarded the ability to develop through a renovation RFP, the Chelsea NYCHA campuses. They are in negotiation with NYCHA to come to a written agreement, both for a license, which allows them to do work prior to closing, and for a full development agreement that says, here's how everything happens, right? Because of the plans to do demolition and to do new construction, they are required to go through ULURP. So that's a parallel plan to their standard RFP negotiations. The RFP for the ULURP, the DEIS, we have not gotten the responses back on it yet. ULURP has not started. So we have these two tracks going along at the same time. In the middle of it, as we've all talked among ourselves many times, if they had just come back to the broader community and said, we want to make changes, this, that, whatever, we could have hashed this out prior to starting this process. They did not. So now we have tenants associations, some people in favor, some people against, and we are in the political process of getting through related from an award to an actual contract and the public approvals to allow them to do the plan that's proposed. Our board has not supported the plan that's proposed because it is diametrically opposite of what we approved.
So our leverage point is Euler. Is that what it is?
No, it's Euler, but it's also elected officials. And as we have done something which has been very aggravating, as Jeff talked about earlier, we've peeled the onion here, and there's one more issue that comes up. And the most recent issue is interim repairs, which brings us back to our letter at hand, that the RFP and everything stated, do those repairs as part of it.
I'm still on the point of, they are going to get the deal
They're not gonna,
or not.
we don't know until a contract is signed and a ULURP is approved. Those two things must
So the
happen.
Europe is our chances.
Also,
And the contract, we have a say in the contract?
we have a say in the discussion with the Public Housing Authority about what they're doing and not doing, and our council member and our elected officials are really getting more engaged as they've understood now that there's huge holes here from what they were told was the deal. And our job has been finding what these issues are. And it's very hard, Christine, because we don't know until we have a meeting or discussion. And here's the financials, here's the budget.
And then what's the timeline of the Europe of the contract?
We believe sometime in the next, between now and the end of the year, we believe this is moving in tandem. That's all I can believe.
Yeah, and we submitted questions to them, requesting timeline on a response to the draft environmental scope, which this group looked at very closely over, the last 2 months. So that will help give an indication also for when we can expect it.
The reason you're having an unclear response is because we have not been given clear information all the way through. It's been very hard to.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have actually the opportunity to change the game. And because we keep saying they get a contract, they are doing this, they are doing that, it feels like the train left the station. At the same time.
I think that's what they're selling.
So
And we know
that's
the
what I'm
contract,
trying to clarify.
As Mike mentioned, also the contract, we know this license agreement has not been signed. The
development agreement has not been signed.
And it is both an opportunity, as you're pointing out, because there's leverage before it is signed, but it also presents real challenges in that services are not being delivered because related is
No,
being paid to
I
deliver
definitely
services. So it cuts both ways for sure.
Because in any redevelopment or preservation or renovation project, you always have a budget line for interim repairs until you get to the major renovation redevelopment. You always do.
But this is quite prolonged, given the complexity of the project and the way NYCHA is releasing the properties to related in this.
But we have an
way.
opportunity to put that clause into the
Yes, we do.
contract / Euler.
And that's what we.
In case we go that road.
Both.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to remind us we do have this letter specifically and we need to, yes,
I'd
Paul?
like to make a motion to approve the letter.
I'm sorry, actually, so sorry. Mike, did you wanna, can I just pause that for a
Pause,
second?
pause.
It's not on the, thank you. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add, to this discussion? It wasn't clear of your hand.
Yeah, just to clear up one question about, who's paying for the security and that, what's going on now. Related, Essence is paying for that. So that's the issue with them. They're
Actually,
not,
we asked that question and they would be paying, they'd be paying, but they would get an offset against whatever's due back to NYCHA.
yeah. Sure enough. But I'm just saying, they're laying the money out now for it. So just.
They're fronting money,
Yeah, so it's not like NYCHA's withholding money from the tenants. No,
No,
Essence is paying for
thank
it.
you.
Okay.
Thank you for
All right.
clarifying. Thank you, Mike. Okay, sorry, with that, Paul.
So just to tag on to that for a moment, that's how the repairs would also be funded, is that they would front load the cost. They would do the repairs and front load, and so they can afford to do that. So I would like to make the motion to support this letter with the friendly amendments that were discussed at tonight's meeting.
Second.
No, all in favor? Okay, that looks pretty, sorry, on camera. I don't know what the voting procedures are,
And
right?
do you want to ask for a schedule?
She has to finish calling the vote, please, Christine.
And Matt, that's opposed? Sorry, Matt. Sorry.
Okay.
Is there? We have all in favor in the room, and if we could just do.
No, we don't have all in favor of the room.
No. I'm sorry, we do not have all in favor.
I'm present, not eligible, so I'm waiting.
Thank
to
you,
vote.
sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, thank you for clarifying.
Fourth round.
Do you want me to call Jesse? How would you like me to handle this?
If you can clarify, if you can clarify the vote on your end, it's very hard for me to see on my end. So if you can
Okay,
clarify.
we could just keep folks online separately, just so I make sure I get it right. So, that's Matt, Roberta, Carrie, and Marty. I'm gonna ask now if you're in favor.
Yes.
Raise your hand. Yes, Matt is a yes.
In favor.
I just want to clarify, I am not voting this evening on anything. I am not eligible to vote on anything.
Got it. Okay. And any opposed? Okay. Present not eligible. Thank you.
Did Mike Noble vote?
He's not.
Mike is in.
Oh, okay.
So to clarify, just on my end, Jessica, that's unanimous, yes, except for the one P&E from Jeffrey?
And correct, and whatever Roberta is counted as not eligible to vote, and because she doesn't count as excuse, I suppose, and then whatever Mike is.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. Sorry for that confusion, thank you. And thank you, I know there was, again, different folks participating in the contributions to that letter, so thank you. For the chair report, have really primarily, a few quick updates. One, many committees now have looked at and discussed the City of Yes on housing. We know the housing committee, thank you, Joe and Maria, are taking the lead on that, and we'll vote on this next week at your meeting before it goes to the board in July.
No.
Is that, no?
No. So the housing committee took this up in May, and then it also went to Chelsea Land Use and to Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land Use. They gave input into this, which is not the final letter, but a framework. And that has been incorporated together, and that will go to the full board to look at the framework, because we are very lucky. Jesse worked with city planning, and even though our July meeting is late, which means we would pass the deadline for response, city planning will take comments after that deadline, because it's before their hearing. So we will be sending the final letter to the July board. It's coming back to housing in June again. So this is like, that's our whole steps. The big part is.
I think that's.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But really, they're good explanation of what she said.
Holy shit, no.
After a committee, and then it's going to the full board in July.
Oh, I'm so sorry, June, no, June
But
is so soon.
June meeting, June
July.
full board, July full. board.
Not June
Two
full
full
board.
boards.
That's what I thought you meant. The June.
This will be voted out at the July full board.
Thank you. That's what I consider.
It was that.
And it does seem that Jesse, and we can turn to Jesse for any additional clarity, because he has been working the phones on it, although if you look at his face, I don't know if he wants to say any more. But is that DCP confirmed the hearing for this will be in September, so the timing is such that our letter will have plenty of time to make its rounds, which for those who have been in the inside, discussions about this, we were debating the timing for all of these meetings, because we wanted to be sure that the letter would have the intended impact, which is getting, to the audience before any decisions or public sessions or, additional public sessions were.
So there's no requirement that we have to get it in by a certain time.
At this point, we have been told, and it was repeated at the Borough Board, that comments up until and after the hearing were acceptable. We'd like to get our comments in before the hearing so that they have maximum impact. But if the hearing is in September, late July does not interfere with our ability to do that.
And Burke, there's so many questions that are raised. We haven't got answers yet from city planning, or take a position to get those questions.
Before we take questions, and I do see you guys, but Jesse, he has been kind of working this back and forth. So Jesse, anything you want to add or clarify with regards to timing?
No, that's it. Just reminder, if anybody has concerns about that, yeah, just so we're clear, there is still a 60-day comment period that we will pass over, but we did the same thing with the last two City of Yes applications, and DCP made that qualification for both the last two. So we're not stepping past what the normal stuff that we've done for City of Yes. So we're actually ahead of the game if we're getting it in before the hearing, because before we did not get it in before the hearing for the one of the other City of Yeses. So I think we're doing well.
Okay, go to DD and then we'll go to Jeffrey.
Sorry to be confused. So the letter is not coming out of your June housing committee, is it? Or is it coming out of your July housing committee?
Oh, that's,
Well, you have an opportunity for both.
He doesn't.
well, why don't we say this, why don't we, let me respond.
Well, it does matter,
No.
because if it's gonna be discussed at the full board in June.
It's not gonna be discussed.
It's not, okay.
That was the original plan. Right, that was the original plan, right. I think what happens is if we get the responses back,
Right.
we could try for June, but have a feeling we're not gonna get the responses back until our July meeting. Right.
Okay, Jeffrey and then Christine.
What responses are you talking about? I thought we were still supposed to review as the sort of the three committees, the list of questions we were gonna send as an admin letter.
That's
I
what-
haven't seen those
No,
yet.
that's what well, there's actually a lot of, in the framework that was sent, there's a lot of questions in there. And we're gonna extract all of those for an admin letter.
I know this was brought up in a thread, so I just wanna make sure like that,
Yes,
is that gonna happen? Because I think,
yeah,
okay,
yes.
ideally, we have a chance to get them to respond so that we can then
That's the whole
respond
point.
to that.
That's the point.
Thank you.
So, Christina.
Transportation is going to send you the inputs tomorrow.
Good, because I wanted to ask you, I think Christine, it's conversion of accessory parking to public parking is part of this too. That's what-
There's a bunch.
right, but they mentioned that in passing at one meeting, so I wanted you to know that.
Okay, Paul, and then.
Are we having a public hearing on this at our, maybe our June full board, so that we can incorporate general comments as well? Could we add that to our June, have the city of
It's
yes,
already-
hearing in June?
It's ready before
Jesse,
authority.
It's already
yes.
it's already on the agenda for June. For the full board, there's a hearing.
Jesse's so good. He's
Jesse's
just
so
so good.
He explains it so much better than I do.
Okay, Carrie, I saw your hand briefly. Was your comment addressed or?
Yeah, Jeffrey asked my question about the questions.
Yeah,
Questions
okay,
about the
great.
questions.
We'll get those out.
Good shepherd.
Great, okay, in terms of other, so that's City of Yes, in terms of, new member and committee updates. Wanted to just, share with everybody that we did receive 7 new members to the board, which is very exciting, and Kevin is one of them here, as we introduced him earlier. We are hosting an orientation tomorrow at 4 here in the office. I think several of you have already indicated that you are able to join, which is great, and thank you. We will be sharing an agenda that Jesse's used in, I think the board has used in past orientation. If anyone would like to help facilitate the discussion or the sharing of information related to those topics, we welcome your participation. I think not only will it help make the presentation more engaging, of course, but also give, you know, our new board members an opportunity to kind of hear the different perspectives, styles, what you value and appreciate about the board. So that should be coming out soon. I did want to note that as we look to place, I think we're going to take a very typical approach to placing these members on committees, which is that we've asked for their preferences. And I will certainly be reflecting on, I've had many conversations with you, with co-chairs about what's missing from your committees, what you'd like to see. But I also intend to do any, you know, recommendations in consultation with co-chairs. So we'll be in discussion about that. I know we also have a few people who have rolled off, as well as some people requesting to be public members. And I've gotten a request from a few people looking to switch committees. So I'm hopeful that this can all be kind of done at a wholesale opportunity to reorient our committees as needed. And certainly if anyone has any recommendations or concerns about how we approach that, you should feel free to reach out to me. You know, I think we all look forward to having new perspectives around the table and the new energy that that brings. And so as co-chairs and as leaders, as members of the exec, I hope you'll, you know, do whatever you can to help make people feel comfortable and welcome around our tables. Which brings me to a second point. I just want to make sure that we're all being really thoughtful. We not only with these 7 people, but in general, welcoming people from the public, that we don't presume any affiliations or associations, that people should be encouraged to come to the board to share their perspectives, regardless of whatever they think the board perspective is. And you know, that we as leaders, but even when we stand up at other committees, that we're just doing our best to create a welcoming environment for everyone, and that anyone should be encouraged to share their opinion regardless of whether it's defined as belonging to a particular group or as perhaps different than what the board is taking a position on. So I'll ask for all of you to be thoughtful about that and with your colleagues as well. In terms of other working group updates, you know, we've continued with the Port Authority. We are getting very close to the ULERC process beginning. I was at JFK yesterday and reflecting at like what a massive project that is and what we are about to endure here in our neighborhood. And so, you know, that work is really top of mind for so many, and I want to thank again the working group for all of the time they're spending on this. We have seen a lot of continued positive, I would say, reception to the dialogue and to the community perspective that we're bringing to those discussions. I don't know if we're seeing.
Today's a certification day. Yeah, the plan is being certified, DCP.
Do you know
Today.
what?
It had to.
And in fact, CPC has sent out a deck to everybody, which is a little bit old. And so it doesn't look very good.
What did they send out?
They sent it to the press and to
Presentation.
everybody. And they are like, you know, the bridges and are shown as massing, so people are calling and saying, do you like this? And I say no. So it's a little surprising, and CPC is still pushing for their, you know, their corner. But, okay, so that's,
I
so I
can't-
wanted to let you know.
I can't believe they actually sent out all the information.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
It's great, that's helpful for the public process.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Confused
That's
everyone.
what I'm going to say, it's horrible, people are talking, it's horrible, what are you doing?
Okay, with that, I'm gonna turn it to Jesse. I do want to note we have one item of new business and we have one other person from the public who I'll give an opportunity to say a few comments. But Jesse, please, I'll turn to you for your district office report.
Sure, I'll try to be as brief as possible. So there is the draft full board agenda and the June committee schedule in your drop boxes, as well as hard copies on your on the desks in front of you. Please take a look as for next week to make sure we have all of the letters as voted on accurately described and the number that you guys all voted on. Also, please take a look at your committee schedules. Again, this is a snapshot. We understand everything. Sometimes things change 5 days before the committee, but please do take a look as to what we think right now. We can clearly say we think is on the agenda for each of the committees in June. Please take time to take a look at other committees so you have a knowledge of what they're discussing and if there's possibly any overlap that you guys need to collaborate on. In terms of meeting schedules for June, Transportation Planning Committee, it needs to meet on Tuesday, June 18th. Wednesday, June 19th is Juneteenth and the office will be closed. It is a city holiday. The reminder that the full board, after June's full board, the next full board is July 24th. So if there are things that you guys will be wanting to discuss and vote on and need to get it out earlier, you need just to think about that when you're having those discussions and votes. And then just as a reminder, we always hold our social event the Thursday right after the full board. So that is Thursday, the 25th. We will be holding our social event. It will be catered. There'll be good food. Please come. And then the only other thing I wanted to highlight for Joe, and I don't know if Maria is in the room, I can't see everybody, that if we are talking about a possible July housing date, we need to discuss that because we'll have to move that right now. It's set on the 4th, July 4th, which I believe is a holiday. And so we'll need, right now we can move it to the July 3rd, which would be easy, but I want to make sure that we obviously, that makes sense for everybody in terms of attendance. And that's all.
Some no faces.
That's all I got. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. In terms of new business, Sorry for folks on Zoom. I'm not sure if we've circulated this letter yet, but for those in the room, the Manhattan at Borough Board, it was discussed, it has been discussed, Mark Levine has discussed many times, a desire to address some of the burdens faced by hybrid meetings. Following, not at Borough Board, but to that group, it was requested that we consider signing on to the letter that, again, for those who are in the room, it's in front of you, and if you don't have it, we have extra copies here. If you ever pass one to Maria, I think she can. This is effectively a letter to endorse, a bill that you can see here was proposed by Wyland Boras, which would reduce the in-person quorum requirement. We have asked if they would take edits to the letter, and they would, but they're not taking letter edits to the amendment. So I think, I think many of us might feel that this isn't exactly the solution we are, or the problem that we are confronting here in Community Board 4. But I did want to open it up for discussion, and if there's interest in signing on to the letter, or alternatively, also, if we want to just be pursuing more or different as it relates to, our hybrid approach, that we could use this opportunity to report back to our electeds about what we think needs to be done to be a better solution for the realities of hybrid today. So with that, yeah, JD.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the bill. Is it just to open the meeting? You only require a quarter of the quorum of the membership, I should say? And once you open the meeting, then the rules still apply that we always use, or has that changed?
My understanding is that it would be for the entirety of the meeting.
Yeah, that is accurate.
So that means a quarter of the membership could vote and pass letters.
Yeah.
No.
Is that what that means?
Yes.
Or is it a quarter in person?
And you need the extra
Yeah,
online.
Can I
Correct.
Jesse spoke to you. Yeah, Jesse, go ahead.
Sure. So my understanding is that this letter is looking for support for the solely for the concept of reducing in-person quorum down to 20, I believe it would be 26, because that's a little more than 25 2%. So it's a quarter. It will give us the flexibility to only require a quarter of a committee or a full board to meet quorum. It does not change anything about remote folks who are do not claim a disability would not count as quorum, still would not count as quorum, would still be allowed to attend if there was in-person quorum. Folks with this who are claiming a disability would still count, could still be counted as quorum remotely. Nothing changes about that. Nothing changes about the remote policy whatsoever. It's solely about the in-person percentage of quorum.
Yeah, and Jesse, for clarification, you would still need quorum for a vote.
Yes.
So whether it's a certain
so
number in person and a lot more online, they all have reasons.
You need quorum to bring the meeting to order. So that the meeting goes to you can bring a meeting to order when you have quorum, and then that allows, once the meeting is in order, you're taking votes, you're making motions, you're seconding them, all of that. Yes.
That means that 14 people can vote, decided.
No.
So here's the question, Jesse, that I think everybody is a little baffled by.
Let's see.
Is it just in person?
Yes.
Or is quorum, if you're allowing quorum to be smaller in person, are you also then including in your definition of quorum those people who are online with legitimate reasons to be online?
No. So again, let's separate the online thing. Anybody who has an extraordinary circumstance never counts as quorum. They will never count till quorum. The only people that are members that are online that could possibly count as quorum are folks that are claiming a disability. So
But that's, so it's totally lessening quorum, right?
Yeah, let him finish.
So
Go ahead.
the real question it goes back to, my opinion is what you guys need to decide whether you're comfortable with or not, is going back to what JD is, I think, referencing, which is saying that if you had a 14 person, committee, 14-person committee, which we have, and you had only 25% of those people show up, they could be voting out recommendations.
Right, lowers quorum, it lowers them, so it lowers the quorum entirely. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Roberta?
So if I'm reading the legislation correctly, what it would do is it would create the flexibility to have that amount of quorum. There is no requirement that this board or any other board adjust its bylaws to that level. And I don't necessarily think that that would be a good idea, but I actually think it would be really helpful to have the flexibility to go below quorum in certain circumstances. It might be just for committee meetings, it might be 40%. I think it'll be valuable to have that type of flexibility. Obviously, it may be challenging to amend this particular piece of legislation, but I look at this as a sort of like a floor. Like, this is just 25% is what the legislation says. It's not what we do. And we could decide to use this strategically in ways to enable committees that have, larger committees that have struggled to actually meet quorum in person, or in the budget task force where we struggled to meet quorum, to actually move pieces of items along in a way that still sort of matches the spirit of what quorum is, which I understand this piece of legislation may not to some members here, but I think it's worth thinking a little bit beyond the letter of the bill here.
Thank you, Roberta. We're gonna go to Christine and then Kurt.
So when I was reading this, I thought we were saying, okay, you still need 50%, right? But in person, you only need 26. But sub of a group, which would be still 50% of people who are online. And so Jesse, you're saying that's not what it says. Jesse?
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with online. It has to do solely with the in-person number for quorum. And Roberta's right. Again, it is not demanding that we all change our bylaws. It's simply giving the flexibility to bodies for that.
Yeah, I'm not in favor. I think what we have now, quorum of those present physically in the room. And if we don't, then we continue, but we have the sense of the committee. We have the sense of whoever is there. It's like we can pass letters, resolutions, whatever, but it's not a binding vote, it's a sense, and then we send it to full board, where there'll be
I think we have to be careful about in the room, Bert.
No need to change.
Carrie, sorry, 1 second. We're gonna just go. Bert, you're done, Joey?
Yeah.
Then we'll go to you, Carrie.
I mean, the point of having a board is to have majority of people in a room to come to consensus about difficult issues and also to hear the public. I disagree. This is the minority coming up with a solution. And it means that minorities should not be in charge, majority should be in charge. And this reduction of quorum, I think, gives incredible amount of ability to manipulate outcome.
Carrie?
Yeah, I just want to be really clear on the in the room versus online. There are many people right now who are online who count towards quorum. So it's not, I just want to be clear about that. It's not that it's in the room, it's 50%. 50% combined in the room and online. if you have a disability.
So this, I'd
Right,
like to have
Jesse?
the,
Sorry,
Yes, yes,
Jesse's
again.
nodding his head. That's correct.
That
Like,
is what
for
I-
example, Marty, I'm pretty sure you count towards quorum. Am I correct? I mean, you vote every time, so do I, because I also count towards quorum. It doesn't matter if I'm there or here in the box. I'm always gonna be counting towards quorum. So it's about 50%.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Yes, the answer is yes, Karen. That's what I was saying before. It does impact people who are claiming disability who are remote count towards quorum. And so the folks that have filled out the form claiming a disability are counting toward or count towards quorum. So I'm not identifying those folks, but those folks can self-identify as
25%. And the proposed bill or the bill proposes that number, what is currently
It's
go from 50 to 20, or we believe it to be 26.
Right.
Paul.
just like two things. One is I want to clarify on Bert's point, this is not just about committees. This is also about full board.
Full board.
You could have full board at 26%, conduct business, process letters and all that. So my second thing is, I'd like to make a motion that we, take a position against this legislation and maintain the current quorum factors that we currently adopt.
I don't know that we need a motion on this. We were asked to sign on and I think maybe meaning we just don't need to sign on. I think maybe we want.
I second that.
Opposition to the bill.
Yeah, I second that.
Can we?
Opposition.
Sorry, Stephanie, if everyone could just Stephanie, yeah.
Jesse.
I think we're just being sign on. If we're not comfortable with signing on, then that's fine. No vote needs to be taken.
You can choose.
No, it's not a proposal. And there's a piece of legislation. If we want to talk about the legislation, I think we need to then spend some time on bringing in the folks that are who are presenting the legislation and having an actual conversation with all of those, that someone presenting on that and talking about it. We don't normally go off and vote in opposition to something that is not on the agenda, or that we haven't had a fuller discussion with stakeholders involved.
Especially since it's our hometown senator.
This is our senator.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's not making a change.
Thank you, Jesse.
We just don't have to vote. We just have to say we're not going to sign on to the letter.
Okay, I think we're okay, Maria, you had your hand up, are you comfortable?
Judiciary.
Well, I was just gonna make a comment, because my thought was, if it's just about, to me, having flexibility and having choice is more power than being like pigeonholed and you can't be flexible at all. And from what if my understanding is correct, what I heard is we can keep things as they are for this board. We don't have to make any change. But if it's about having flexibility and having an option, to me, that's power. And I don't, if the consensus is that we're not signing on this as a board, I would go along with that. However, that's my thought about that.
Thank you, Maria. What I would say is, I think what we're hearing, and Jesse, just a sec, what we're hearing is this is deserving of more conversation, and I think that's a good thing. We don't need to do that tonight, and we should do that with more information, and we also all will have the opportunity to think more about what opportunities this could or couldn't present, and what ways we wanna craft something that might work better for our board, or work for our board. We don't have to do that now, and as Jesse said, we should invite the people who are promoting this legislation to come and give us a more full take on what the motivations as well as what the implications are. So I think those are the kinds of thoughts that we should have, and we should welcome that dialogue, but I don't think we need to continue that.
Good.
Yep, okay.
So we are not signing that.
We are not signing on to this letter, that
Can we
is.
invite one on the second meeting?
But yes, we'll discuss how we wanna pursue ongoing discussion related to this. Before we conclude our agenda, we were joined by one other member of the public, and I know there were some online conversations. Was there anything you wanted to raise here during the meeting regarding?
I can just say that, hi, I did hear from the tenants of 351 through 357 West 45th Street, and concerned about the sort of rapidly approaching transaction through which our buildings could be sold. It became clear that the deal being discussed, the nonprofit who's engaged has actually not been given very vital information, and is getting it very late. And already that they are not in a position to afford the services and the safety that they have already been promising. And the problem is that then this new information about the building condition, et cetera, means that the gap between the money they need and the money they have been given is even, that gap is even greater. So we would love to, make that all clear to people, because, we're interested in this succeeding. But the problem is that the plans are really not sufficient. And so we want to bring that to the attention so it can be addressed concretely as soon as possible. And potentially, rather than the money going to someone who is, misrepresenting a lot of really essential truths, rather than money going to that person, why not the money go into the buildings, right? And go into actually securing, and we're just eager for that to us to be able to have, very concrete conversation about that and then inform everybody so, people can be as informed and proactive, and this can be managed as sensibly as possible, as early as possible, since time is really of the essence.
Great, thank you again for coming tonight. I know you've already connected with Joe, and Maria is also here, both co-chairs of Housing, Health and Human Services, and just for everybody else's edification.
Yeah, so if, I know we have a specific conversation, but I don't know how much, if that's gonna allow enough time, if we can potentially get onto the agenda of that meeting about Health and Human Services too, that might also be a good time. I leave it to you to make that decision, just given the time is of the essence, and I know you mentioned that these things can be addressed later, but I also, potentially if it's earlier, because as you mentioned, once things have been signed, it's hard to force people to
But
do
there's
it.
actually, just for information, there are two closings here. One is the not-for-profit acquiring the building, and then the with this bridge loan, and then the not-for-profit getting all the public financing by the end of the year. So we have a lot of activity to happen between now and the end of the year to secure necessary funding, especially if it's represented that the service money is not there as they represented it would be.
And the safety money too.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
the collection of things.
all kinds of services.
Okay.
And we're meeting in 2 weeks.
About the 11th, and I know Jesse mentioned they're trying to expedite that meeting. So there'll be ongoing discussion. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, with that.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Great. That is a quick meeting, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will.